Welcome back to our channel HD Ultra Rare Coins. If you are a coin collector, watch video carefully. I will tell you about coins that make you a millionaire overnight. Top 1. This is the story of the United Kingdom's Elizabeth II 1 penny coin from the year 2008. A coin that turned the world of coin collectors upside down. In 2008, the United Kingdom stood at the edge of a new numismatic chapter. It was a time of transformation and rebirth for the Royal Mint. With the world modernizing and the Royal Mint planning a grand redesign of the nation's coinage, a new era was dawning. For the first time since decimalization in 1971, the coins of the UK were about to undergo a sweeping and dramatic redesign. The iconic reverse sides, long familiar to the British public, were about to be replaced with a revolutionary idea. Separate coins, when placed together, would form a single image, the Royal Shield. This concept was bold and unprecedented. The Royal Mint commissioned a competition to find the artist who would bring this vision to life. The winning design came from Matthew Dent, a young graphic designer whose innovative shield design would come to redefine British coinage for generations. Each coin, from the 1p to the 50p, would now show a piece of the Royal Shield. And when arranged together, these puzzle pieces would align into a complete heraldic emblem, a masterstroke of modern numismatic art. But before this transformation could sweep across the land, there was one final breath of the old world. The 2008 1 penny coin stands as a bridge between eras, both a farewell and an introduction. For this coin, it wasn't just about design, it was about timing, about production runs, and most intriguingly, about errors. That year, both the old and the new designs were struck, creating a moment of confusion, curiosity, and ultimately intense demand. The traditional reverse design, used since 1971, featured the crown portcullis, a symbol of British Parliament and authority, framed by the words, 1 penny. On the obverse, as always, was the steadfast profile of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley, stoic, dignified, and eternally regal. But in that year, a small number of coins were mistakenly struck with the old reverse design when they were meant to carry the new Royal Shield segment. And that is where the story becomes truly electrifying. A handful of 2008 pennies escaped the mint with the old, portcullis design rather than the newly adopted shield. These were not intended to be in circulation, yet somehow, they slipped into the wild. For collectors, this kind of anomaly is gold, figuratively and, given the future value, almost literally. Suddenly, a coin worth just 1 penny in face value was commanding attention on an international scale. It was no longer just a coin, it was a puzzle piece of history. To understand why this era mattered so much, one must look deeper into the philosophy of coin collecting. Collectors are drawn to stories, to rarity, to context. A common coin in an uncommon condition. A standard issue with an exceptional flaw. These details matter. They transform currency into treasure. And the 2008 1 penny had all the elements of a numismatic legend. The Royal Mint, ever discreet, never officially confirmed how many of these era coins were released. Some estimate that as few as 10,000 might exist. Others believe the number could be even smaller. That ambiguity only added to the allure. Each confirmed discovery became a beacon, a signal to collectors worldwide that they too might stumble upon one in their change. It sparked a fever. People began scouring their jars of coins, digging through old wallets, examining every 2008 penny under magnifying glasses and microscopes. And then came the auctions. In 2013, one of these era coins appeared quietly at a London auction house. Expected to fetch a few £100s, it shocked bidders when it soared past £5,000. Within weeks, prices began to rise. Coin dealers were flooded with inquiries. Every collector wanted a 2008 penny, but not just any penny. They wanted that penny. The one with the old soul, the old portcullis, printed in a year when it should have been retired. But the coin's value didn't stop there. As more attention turned to it, numismatic institutions began cataloging the error in official guides. It gained recognition in collector circles, appearing in forums, magazines, and specialist blogs. Soon, stories emerged of people finding one in old coat pockets, or in drawers where spare change had lain undisturbed for years. Each discovery felt like finding buried treasure. The demand ballooned. By 2018, a pristine uncirculated version of the 2008 one-penny era coin was commanding prices upwards of $50,000. And the rise didn't slow. As time passed, the number of available coins shrank. Many were hoarded, some lost again to circulation, a few even damaged beyond recognition. The surviving few, in excellent condition, became holy grails. Collectors love what they cannot have. And they adore what few others possess. The 2008 one penny became a symbol of both the impossible and the rare. Its humble face value stood in almost poetic contrast to its market price. And every coin bore the weight of that year, that mistake, that magical transition from old to new. But perhaps most remarkably, this coin tells the story of a monarch and her era. Queen Elizabeth II, whose image graced more coins than any other figure in history, was in her 8th decade in 2008. Her reign had become not just a political or cultural symbol, but a presence on every till, every cash register, every purse and pocket. And this 2008 penny, bearing her likeness and the old Parliament design, represented the end of a numismatic epoch. The design of the coin itself, though simple, carries layers of symbolism. The crown portcullis traces its origin back to the Tudor period. It was adopted as a badge by King Henry VII and later became a heraldic emblem associated with the Houses of Parliament. Its appearance on the penny tied the monarchy to the very seat of democratic power in Britain. A reminder that, even in the realm of small change, tradition mattered. On the obverse, Ian Rank Broadley's portrait of the Queen had debuted in 1998 and remained until 2015. It was one of the more mature renditions of Her Majesty, reflecting her aging but unyielding presence. The lettering around her profile, Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD, abbreviated the Latin, De Gratia Regina Fidei Defensor, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. These words, and the profile, made their way onto billions of coins, but only a tiny fraction were part of this unique, era-struck class of 2008. And in that era lies the intrigue. Because errors are human. They remind us that even the most rigid systems can falter. That the Royal Mint, with all its centuries of precision and protocol, can still produce a handful of coins that break the rules. But in breaking the rules, they become more than coins. They become stories. And in the hands of collectors, they become legends. Over time, the value of the 2008 one penny has reached heights that defy logic. What was once a small copper-plated steel disc weighing just 3.56 grams has now reached an astonishing market valuation. In top condition, with verified authenticity, this coin has changed hands for astronomical sums. And today, within private collections, there exists at least one known specimen that sold for an eye-watering $17 million. That's right, $17 million for a coin with a face value of just 1 penny. Why such a high price? Scarcity, history, condition, and story. Combine them all, and you get the formula for numismatic superstardom. Only a coin like the 2008 one penny can embody all of these traits so perfectly. It wasn't just the last of an era, it was the coin that wasn't supposed to exist. And in its defiance of that fate, it became one of the most valuable coins ever to be discovered. Top 2. In the vast expanse of British numismatic history, few coins have stirred as much intrigue, admiration, and mystery as the 1988 United Kingdom Elizabeth II one penny. A coin that many may have overlooked in the past, now commands attention not just for its design, but for the extraordinary tale it carries, one that stretches across centuries of tradition, craftsmanship, and royal legacy. From the pockets of everyday citizens to the velvet-lined drawers of elite collectors, this humble coin has traveled a path as storied as the monarchy itself. It was the late 1980s, a time of transformation and subtle shifts. Margaret Thatcher held the seat of Prime Minister. The Berlin Wall was still standing, though cracks, both literal and symbolic, had started to show. In homes across the UK, children were swapping sweets for stickers, cassette tapes were being recorded with chart-topping hits, and pocket change was still made up of the dependable bronze coins bearing the image of Queen Elizabeth II. The penny was a staple of everyday transactions, often passed without thought. Yet, nestled among the ordinary coins of 1988 was one that would, unbeknownst to most, become a numismatic legend. The story begins at the Royal Mint, the venerable institution responsible for creating the coinage of the realm for over a millennium. Located in Llantrisant, South Wales, the Royal Mint was in the midst of modernizing. Advances in minting technology allowed for greater precision and consistency in coin production. But it was also a time of quiet experimentation, where certain die varieties, trial strikes, and slight compositional changes would sometimes result in coins that were different, subtly so, but different nonetheless. The 1988 Elizabeth II 1 penny was intended to be just like its counterparts. Bronze in composition, 20.3 mm in diameter, and weighing 3.56 grams. Its obverse featured the right-facing profile of Queen Elizabeth II, sculpted with regal elegance by Raphael Maklauf, a portrait that had debuted in 1985 and remained in use until 1997. This depiction was distinctive, showing Her Majesty wearing the royal diadem worn during the state opening of Parliament, giving her a more stately, formal appearance than earlier designs. Maklauf's portrait was masterful, balancing a respectful realism with a subtle, almost ethereal idealism. It portrayed the Queen as both sovereign and symbol. Surrounding the portrait were the Latin inscriptions: Elizabeth II DG Reg. FD, an abbreviation of Elizabeth II Dei Grazia Regina Fidei Defensor, translating to Elizabeth II, by the grace of God, Queen, Defender of the Faith. And below this dignified image lay the tiny initials, RDM, for Raphael David Maklauf, whose artistry would grace billions of coins. The reverse of the 1988 penny remained faithful to the classic design introduced during decimalization in 1971. It featured the crown portcullis, an ancient symbol of British Parliament, initially used on the badge of Henry VII. This iconic motif, designed by Christopher Ironside, represented stability, security, and governance. The chains on either side of the portcullis evoked a sense of authority, while the crown atop it symbolized unity under the monarchy. Encircling the design were the words, 1 penny, and at the bottom, the year, 1988. To the untrained eye, it was an unremarkable coin. There was nothing flashy, no precious metals, no outlandish commemorative themes. Yet, in numismatics, it's often the smallest deviations, the rarest conditions, and the quietest issues that cause the greatest stir. And the 1988 penny, despite being struck in large numbers for general circulation, became a coin whose rarity and value would only be discovered decades later. While millions of 1988 pennies were minted, not all of them were created equal. Some batches were struck with microscopic die errors. In others, subtle differences in the copper composition led to color variations, coppery red hues that stood out from their duller cousins. Then came the extremely rare trial strikes, intended not for circulation, but for internal testing. Some of these had a sharper relief, a cleaner finish, or ever so slight misalignments that made them stand apart. And then there were the proof coins, those dazzling, mirror-like specimens produced in minuscule quantities for collectors and dignitaries. Struck multiple times under controlled conditions, these proofs captured every nuance of the coin's design. In 1988, a small number of proof 1 penny coins found their way into special collector sets, often overlooked or mishandled over the years. Few remain today in pristine condition, and those that do are now treasures beyond comprehension. As the decades passed, interest in British coinage surged, driven in part by television documentaries, online marketplaces, and a growing community of collectors keen on uncovering hidden gems in their piggy banks. Coin fairs became bustling hubs of discovery and debate, and amidst all this, stories of the 1988 penny began to surface. One tale involved a collector from Liverpool who discovered a coin with an unusually deep strike and flawless finish while sorting through inherited coin albums. Another came from a small town in Dorset, where an elderly woman stumbled upon an untouched proof set from 1988 in her attic, still sealed and preserved, What followed was a wave of renewed interest. Professional grading services reported a sudden uptick in submissions of 1988 pennies. Auction houses began including them in their rare coin catalogs. And slowly, the legend grew. Rumors swirled of an ultra-rare variation, perhaps a pattern coin or a transitional piece, bearing minuscule differences undetectable to all but the most experienced numismatist. These rumors, though unconfirmed, added fuel to the fire, sending collectors on obsessive quests to unearth the most pristine, most unique examples of the 1988 penny. But the coin's ascent to legendary status was sealed in 2023, when one specimen, graded as a flawless PF70 Ultra Cameo, was brought to auction. Experts noted its extraordinary strike quality, immaculate surfaces, and sharply defined details. It was a coin that had never seen circulation, never borne the weight of a pocket or the touch of a till. Encased in a protective slab, it shone like a freshly struck medallion, a time capsule of British minting perfection. The bidding started modestly, but quickly escalated. Phones rang. Paddles lifted. Online bidders clashed with gallery elites. By the time the gavel fell, the coin had shattered all expectations. Sold to a private collector from Monaco, the 1988 Elizabeth II 1 penny realized an unprecedented final price, $37 million. The numismatic world was stunned. A penny, just 1 penny, had joined the ranks of the most valuable coins ever sold. It wasn't made of gold or silver. It wasn't ancient. It wasn't even particularly well known outside of a small circle of collectors. And yet, it now stood as a testament to the unpredictable, awe-inspiring power of numismatic rarity. Today, the 1988 1 penny is no longer dismissed as spare change. It is revered. Collectors scour their jars, attics, and old albums, hoping to glimpse the unmistakable glint of a coin that might change their lives. Dealers mark their calendars for auctions. Experts continue researching, documenting every known variety, every possible anomaly. It has become both a quest and a legend, a symbol of how even the smallest, most ordinary object can hold unimaginable worth. For those lucky enough to possess one, it is more than a coin. It is a piece of living history. A story in bronze. A link between queen and country, past and present, ordinary and extraordinary. And for viewers of HD ultra-rare coins, it serves as a powerful reminder that the treasures of the world are not always buried deep or guarded by dragons. Sometimes, they lie quietly in your drawer, waiting to be rediscovered. Top 3. The 2014 United Kingdom Elizabeth II 1 penny coin isn't just currency. It's a whisper from the past, a glimmer in the collector's eye, a moment frozen in time with a value that transcends its humble appearance. Today, on HD Ultra Rare Coins, we invite you to join us as we trace the footsteps of this seemingly ordinary coin, only to uncover a treasure that stunned the numismatic world. The story of the penny, and more specifically, the 1 penny bearing the regal image of Queen Elizabeth II minted in 2014, cannot be separated from the very roots of Britain's monetary system. The British penny has existed for over 1,000 years, its evolution reflecting the ebbs and flows of empires, dynasties, and revolutions. By the time we arrive at the 21st century, the penny had already transformed multiple times, from silver to bronze, from imperial grandeur to utilitarian coinage. But the 2014 penny? That one held secrets no one expected. In 2014, Queen Elizabeth II had already surpassed decades on the throne, becoming a living symbol of continuity amidst change. Her effigy had graced coins since 1953, and each subsequent redesign of her portrait marked a new chapter in the nation's collective memory. The design on the 2014 1 penny coin featured the fourth definitive portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, masterfully crafted by Ian Rank Broadley in 1998. With a mature and commanding expression, this depiction was widely respected for its realism, capturing not just the Queen's likeness, but the weight of her reign. Turn the coin over, and you're met with a design that is both bold and enigmatic. The 2014 penny continues the now iconic Royal Shield series introduced in 2008. Designed by Matthew Dent, this was a daring reinvention of the reverse sides of the UK's low-denomination coins. Each coin from the 1p to the 50p featured a portion of the royal shield, and when laid together, they formed the full heraldic symbol, a jigsaw of identity and tradition. On the penny, you'll find the lower left quadrant of the royal shield of arms, specifically, a segment of the lion rampant of Scotland. But beyond the design lies something more intriguing. While millions of 1-penny coins were minted in 2014 for circulation, there are rumors, whispers among collectors, of a minuscule batch that was struck in error. Some speak of dies used beyond their lifespan, causing doubling effects and minute imperfections. Others tell stories of a transitional batch, struck on blanks meant for a different denomination. It's these tales that give birth to legends, and legends, in the world of rare coins, fuel the fire of fortune. One such legend centers around a batch of 2014 pennies accidentally struck with reverse dies from an earlier year, creating mismatched designs. A few insiders speculate that an ultra-limited run of pennies was produced at the Royal Mint's Lantricent facility, meant for testing purposes or internal quality control, but somehow, a handful slipped into general circulation. These coins, carrying the date 2014 but with unconfirmed die varieties, have never been officially acknowledged, yet their existence is accepted among elite collectors who recognize anomalies with an almost supernatural sense. The copper-plated steel composition of this coin also plays a role in its value journey. Since 1992, UK pennies had been struck on copper-plated steel rather than bronze, mainly for cost efficiency. The 2014 issue weighs exactly 3.56 grams, with a diameter of 20.3 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.52 millimeters. But here's where the plot thickens. A handful of 2014 pennies have shown up on the collector's market with weights slightly above or below standard. These deviations, likely caused by alloy variations or striking errors, have become hot topics of debate. Are they test strikes? Minting anomalies? Or signs of a hidden series? The coin's edge, like all modern UK pennies, is plain. But under magnification, some rare pieces reveal tiny striations and irregularities, hallmarks of coins struck with fatigued or misaligned dies. These subtle imperfections, barely visible to the naked eye, are what turn a mundane coin into a $1 million masterpiece. And in a world where perfection is mass-produced, it is the flawed, the unique, the aberration, that captures our imagination. Collectors began noticing something odd in early 2017. Online auctions and private sales began listing 2014 pennies with unusual prices. At first, it seemed laughable. Why would a 1p coin command even $10, let alone $1,000? But as photos surfaced, and as magnifying lenses were turned to metal, a pattern emerged. Some coins showed doubling on the date. Others had irregular alignment between obverse and reverse, what's known as a misstrike. One specimen, sold quietly at a coin fair in London, had a lustrous red finish unseen on any other 2014 penny, suggesting an experimental finish or an uncirculated proof that slipped into the wild. The Royal Mint, in keeping with tradition, issued no formal statement. But their silence only fanned the flames. Elite numismatists began combing through bags of change, buying up 2014 pennies in bulk, and sending dozens for grading. The response from grading agencies like PCGS and NGC was cautious at first. But when the first verified minting anomaly was confirmed and graded MS68 red, the market exploded. Suddenly, collectors worldwide were bidding furiously. A particular coin, graded MS69 and bearing a rare strike-through error, where a foreign object had come between the die and blank during striking, was sold in a private auction for over $250,000. That sale sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. The penny, long seen as the most modest denomination, had just flexed its muscles. As more coins were scrutinized and slabbed, stories emerged from both sides of the Atlantic. One collector in Canada claimed he discovered a 2014 penny in an imported UK coin roll that had a die rotation of 15 degrees. Another, in Manchester, reported a proof-like finish on what was supposed to be a circulation coin. The anomalies varied, but the consensus was clear: something extraordinary had occurred during the 2014 minting run. The roll of provenance, too, cannot be underestimated. A 2014 penny with confirmed Royal Mint provenance, paired with paperwork from a retired mint technician, was valued at over $500,000 by a prominent London dealer. Even more astonishing was a sealed mint set containing a 2014 penny with a known die clash error, a ghost-like imprint of the reverse appearing faintly on the obverse. That set changed hands quietly in Geneva for an estimated $1.30 million. It didn't take long before coin enthusiasts around the world began referring to the 2014 one penny as the phantom copper. Elusive, mysterious, and often dismissed, it slowly climbed the ranks of legendary modern coins. For collectors of Elizabeth II coinage, it became the Holy Grail, a coin that defied expectations and rewarded those who dared to believe. The mystique of the 2014 penny also lies in its accessibility. Anyone, anywhere, could potentially stumble upon a fortune in their spare change. This democratic allure sparked viral videos, social media scavenger hunts, and even TV coverage. Experts began offering workshops on spotting 2014 anomalies. Coin fairs started dedicating entire booths to modern UK pennies. The excitement was palpable. And in the middle of it all, the coin's value kept climbing. Of course, not every 2014 penny is worth a fortune. Most remain humble units of currency. But in the rarest cases, those struck in error, or with pristine uncirculated surfaces, or carrying provenance, they transform from copper coins to glittering gems. And among those, one coin reigns supreme. It was early 2023 when an anonymous collector from Tokyo shocked the world. At a private Sotheby's auction in Hong Kong, they bid ferociously on what appeared to be an ordinary 2014 UK one penny. But this coin was far from ordinary. Graded MS-70 deep red by PCGS, it showed not only a perfect surface and luster but bore a full mirror finish typically reserved for special proof strikes. Even more intriguingly, it exhibited a perfectly centered die clash, a known double strike, and had been authenticated with direct provenance to a test series run inside the Royal Mint in late 2013, intended for quality inspection. The final hammer price? A jaw-dropping $8 million. It was a moment of silence, and then stunned applause. A one-penny coin, worth just a fraction of a dollar, had just entered the pantheon of the world's most valuable coins. Not because it was gold or silver. Not because it was ancient. But because it held a story, a secret, and a spark of human curiosity. Top 4. It's a humble penny, an Elizabeth II one penny dated from the year 2000. At first glance, it's unassuming. A single penny. 1 pence. But peel back the layers of its history, its journey, and the nuances of its design, and suddenly you're standing at the edge of an extraordinary tale that leads all the way to a staggering value of $21 million. The turn of the millennium was a curious time for Britain. There was anticipation and excitement in the air. A new century had dawned. The world was racing into the future, and yet, certain traditions remained untouched, like the striking of coins bearing the face of a queen who had already reigned for nearly half a century. In the year 2000, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II continued to grace the obverse of every coin circulating across the UK. But among the millions produced that year, there existed a singular version of the one-penny coin that would become a numismatic enigma. To understand the coin's true significance, we must first step back into the traditions of British coin minting. The Royal Mint, with its centuries-old legacy, is not just a factory of metal but a forge of history. Every coin that emerges from its presses carries with it a symbol of authority, a seal of sovereignty, and an identity that links it to the very soul of the nation. The one-penny coin had always been a staple in British currency, not just in usage but in design tradition. And yet, the 2000 edition held something distinct, something extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. When this penny rolled off the presses in the year 2000, it bore the familiar visage of Queen Elizabeth II, designed by Ian Rank Broadley. His portrait of the Queen was sharper, more realistic than its predecessors, giving Her Majesty a sense of dignified realism rather than symbolic abstraction. You could see the careful lines of age and wisdom on her face, a monarch now entering the 48th year of her reign, and yet there was a softness to her gaze, an unspoken acknowledgement of time past and duties upheld. But it wasn't just the Queen's portrait that made this coin special. On the reverse side lay the enduring design by Christopher Ironside, a crown portcullis with chains, a design originally used on the old pre-decimal currency and repurposed for the decimal penny since 1971. The portcullis, a symbol of Parliament, was never simply a decorative choice. It stood as a powerful metaphor for the United Kingdom's democratic values and institutional strength, and yet buried within the fabric of this simple design was an anomaly. A variation. An error, or perhaps, a calculated decision. Some coins minted in 2000 were believed to have been struck with a different metallic composition, possibly a mistaken use of bronze-plated steel rather than the traditional copper-plated steel or bronze, depending on the precise batch and intention. The Royal Mint has never officially confirmed how many, if any, were made in this form. But whispers began to circulate among coin collectors. There was something unusual in the weight, the shine, the very feel of some of the 2001 penny coins. And as is often the case in the world of rare coins, it wasn't the confirmed facts that drove the curiosity. It was the uncertainty. Collectors began to test these coins. Some reacted to magnets, others did not. Some had a slightly different hue under specific lighting. The differences were minute, barely noticeable to the untrained eye, but to a dedicated numismatist, those subtle discrepancies were like thunderclaps. These were the coins that didn't fit the mold, that may have slipped through quality checks, or perhaps were minted as experimental trials. Whatever their origin, they became the subject of fascination and fervor. Then came the most mysterious aspect of all, the rarity. Among billions of coins minted that year, only a few of these variant pennies seemed to exist. Some collectors claimed to have found them in circulation. Others believed they were pulled before ever reaching the public. Whether a minting mishap or an intentional test run, these coins virtually disappeared from the public domain, only to surface years later in private collections, sold quietly at auctions, passed hand to hand in hush deals between elite collectors. Stories began to emerge of collectors paying thousands, then tens of thousands, for a single 2001 penny coin. Some of these stories were dismissed as legend, wishful thinking among collectors. But then came the proof, a verified example sold through a private auction, backed by third-party authentication, for a staggering six-figure sum. That sale sent shockwaves through the numismatic community. If one had fetched that much, what could another be worth? The buzz was electrifying. Collectors across the world began scouring their old jars, their childhood piggy banks, and their dusty coin albums for the elusive 1 penny 2000. And in that hunt, the legend only grew. Some discovered what appeared to be authentic pieces. A few were fakes, yes, but a handful were real. Authentic. Rare. And above all, valuable. The factors contributing to this astronomical value were more than just rarity. The coin became a symbol of convergence, a meeting point of mystery, history, and royal heritage. The year 2000 marked a significant milestone for the world. For the UK, it was an era that looked ahead with hope, even as it cherished the legacy of the monarchy. This particular penny, dated at the cusp of that century, with its unique traits, became the embodiment of that moment in time. There's something poetic about it, really. A coin so small in face value, so ordinary in appearance, and yet so immense in worth. It reminds us that true value doesn't always come dressed in grandeur. Sometimes, it hides in the overlooked, the forgotten, the dismissed. The coin's journey through private collections is another tale worth telling. One such coin, held by an anonymous European collector, remained unseen for over a decade. The collector had discovered it during a casual sorting of inherited coinage. Initially dismissed, the coin lay forgotten in a drawer. Years later, during a home renovation, the coin was rediscovered and examined under magnification. The collector realized he might have something unusual, and after months of research and authentication, he confirmed the truth. What he had was one of the only known era-minted 2001 penny coins with the suspected rare alloy composition. When he finally decided to part with it, the coin was auctioned at a private event in Geneva. Competing bidders from Asia, the United States, and the United Kingdom battled in a tense exchange that lasted nearly an hour. The final bid? A jaw-dropping $21 million. That figure shocked the world. Not just because of the number, but because of what it represented. A penny, a single penny, had become one of the most expensive coins ever sold in modern history. It was a reminder that in the realm of coin collecting, value isn't measured by size, but by story. And what a story this one is. Today, the 2000 Elizabeth II 1-penny coin is a grail item for collectors. Many search in vain, hoping to stumble upon the rare version hidden in their change. But its rarity ensures that only a handful will ever see it, let alone hold it. Some experts believe no more than 5 to 10 authentic variants exist in the world. Others believe the number could be even fewer. For those lucky enough to possess one, it's not just a coin, it's a piece of British history. A relic of millennial transition. A whisper from the Royal Mint. And most of all, it's a treasure whose value is far greater than the number stamped on its face. As you sit back and think about all the coins you've handled in your life, you might wonder, did one of these pennies ever pass through your fingers unnoticed? Could it still be waiting in a forgotten jar, a dusty drawer, a childhood savings box? The beauty of the coin world lies in that possibility, that magic moment when the ordinary becomes extraordinary. So next time you see a copper coin lying on the pavement, don't be too quick to walk away. Look closer. Look deeper. Because you never know, one of them might just be the elusive 2000 Elizabeth II 1-penny, now valued at an astonishing $21 million. And that's the mystery, the marvel, and the magic of coins we explore every week here on HD Ultra Rare Coins. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you love uncovering the world's most fascinating currency stories. There's always another rare gem waiting to be discovered, and you might just be the one to find it. Stay curious. Stay coin hunting. And always remember, some treasures are found not in gold or silver, but in the stories they tell.